So what is it about diamonds? Well, John Stossel takes a look at it. It's an older show, the 2020 show, and it's about an advertising campaign in order to entice, obviously, men, buyers of diamond rings. But it's kind of cute and interesting to see how advertising does differentiate and make aware the product.
This Valentine's Day, did you say those 3 little words to someone you love with diamonds? If so, John has 4 little words for you. Give me a break.
Give me a break, Barbara, because why diamonds? They're just rocks. You probably like them, but what do they have to do with love? I think we've been suckered by an ad campaign. The music in the ads is beautiful. Now just hearing it makes me think of love and how you can express it. I love this one! There's a better way to do it. It says, yeah. Okay, then I guess this one can do. Give her a diamond, or a bunch of them, and she'll love you back. I love this man. Which makes me ask, why a diamond? Why not a ruby, or an emerald? Or what the heck, a toaster, or a kitten? Why did diamonds get to be the love and marriage thing? Why, everywhere, do couples to wish to declare their love go out and pay big bucks for diamonds? One reason we're given is that diamonds are so scarce. So, is it true?
No.
Marketing professor Donna Bergenstock points out their scarcity is a myth created long ago by De Beers, the South African company that's dug up most of the world's diamonds.
There are billions of dollars of diamonds sitting in vaults in London, in South Africa, that De Beers specifically keeps off the market in order to artificially raise the price of diamonds.
The supply is so vast that if De Beers hadn't controlled the world market for decades, diamonds would be much cheaper.
The diamond is really just a piece of carbon. It's just a rock.
A diamond is forever. So why is this rock a symbol of love? Because De Beers told us it was.
Give her a diamond and watch the sparks fly.
Since 1940, De Beers' brilliant ad campaign's been convincing Americans that diamonds mean love.
I admire with diamonds.
Unlike most advertising, people just completely bought.
Bob Garfield of Advertising Age magazine says it's one of the best ad campaigns ever done.
It created out of whole cloth the notion that at your engagement you must give your intended a diamond. You know, young lady, you've got a very fair finger there.
But years of listening to this propaganda has convinced us that giving diamonds is an age-old tradition.
Well, open it, Joe.
This is just a sales pitch. It wasn't the custom for men to give women diamonds when my parents got married.
Oh, Dad, you.
It wasn't just ads. De Beers cleverly loans diamonds to celebrities and movie stars.
Angelica Houston.
Think she bought those diamonds?
They were just given them by De Beers to wear in public as loaners.
The rest of you will have to pay for your diamonds. And De Beers is even specific about how much you should spend.
How those big 2 months salary last forever.
According to De Beers,
The bigger the diamond, the more you love her.
a diamond and forever. But wait a second. Is it really just as a sales pitch, or is there something special about diamonds? A sparkle that makes them unique? Well, we tested that idea. We went to Grand Central Station in New York with a couple of diamond rings.
These 2 diamond rings. Which do you like more?
One actually was not a diamond. It's a piece of cubic zirconia worth about $1. The other, the one on the left of your screen, is a $10,000 diamond.
They don't look much different.
Most people couldn't see a difference.
They look really, really similar. I force you to pick one. Which one would you like?
I don't know, maybe 2.
This one's $1.
Oh my God. See, I can't tell the difference.
We asked dozens of people. Nearly half picked the cubic zirconia.
This one's worth $1.
So if they can't tell the difference,
Why is a diamond a symbol of love?
It's a rare thing. It's rare.
Because it's rare.
Yeah.
we heard the scarcity thing.
Well, they're rare gems.
And we heard the ad slogan.
A diamond lasts forever.
And the women said, even if they had preferred the imitation, they'd still rather be given the diamond.
It just makes you feel like you're special.
Really? Even when you can't tell the difference?
I know what I want on my finger and it has to be the real thing.
We're suckers.
You realize that? No, we still want it.
Because the South African cartel ran good ads.
That's right.
Damn, give me a break.
Okay, guys, I saved you a lot of money. Just for the guys. Yeah, it is. It's been like the guy said, since the 1940s, it's been a strong ad campaign. What advertising does is to actually make the demand curve more inelastic. So we're going to see that if we ever change here. All right. So the critics, advertising, they contend and it exploits the consumers, and then reduces the competition with advertising so much so. Defenders say that advertising helps, and it gives you information, adding to that, by offering a greater variety of products and the prices, but just also giving you information about the good. So here's the little bit about the elasticity part of it. The product differentiation, okay, that difference, that uniqueness, that the reason why we buy a diamond, the whole advertising campaign makes it special. It reduces the price elasticity of demand, making the demand curve steeper. So it's rotating it, and the more steep it is, the more inelastic it is to a price change, the more unresponsive you are to a price change. Successful price differentiation, or product differentiation enables the firm to charge a higher price because they know that you're going to buy the diamond no matter what. No matter what the price is, because you've been suckered in. Sorry. Can't get off that part. But this is a Big Mac. Now, you may not like a Big Mac, but when it came out, Big Macs came out about 71, 72, with a big campaign by McDonald's. They had the slogan, 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese. Look, if I know what it is, you know that I'm old, because that's probably, I never liked them though. I never have liked the Big Mac. But it was a big campaign for them to come out with that sandwich at the time. And so if you like them, and you believed in that campaign and that slogan and whatever, then you don't care what the price is. It could be $5 for the thing. You're still going to want it. And they've suckered you in. So that demand curve gets a little steeper, and you would buy it no matter what the price is. So they've successfully suckered you in with that campaign and advertising. So that's the goal of advertising and brand names, is to get you to always remember it. You recognize it, and that's what you want, no matter what the price is. All right. The benefits of brand names is that, again, it provides information about the quality when quality cannot easily be judged in advance. So again, when you go out of town, you go somewhere, you're looking for a place to eat, you typically know those brand places, and then you know the quality, what you're getting. Otherwise, you're going to chance it. Gives firms an incentive. This is another part. Incentive to maintain that high quality. So if you're going to Outback and you're wanting a bloomin' onion, they're still going to try to make it the best way they've made it, with a lot of oil, grease, whatever. But the incentive is for them to maintain it, to maintain that quality, to maintain the consistency. Otherwise, if they lose that consistency and quality, then people will not come to the restaurant, and therefore they'll lose sales and business. And if that continues, that quality being eroded, well, then eventually the whole chain may collapse. And that's happened at times. There have been some negative publicity things that have occurred with certain restaurants, and it kind of hurts their business and sales, sometimes jeopardizing an entire chain. So here's the differences between monopolistic competition and perfect competition. In the pictures, actually there's three different points to be made. Then I'll show the graphs on the next slide. First one is excess capacity. Now you probably don't really know what that is just yet until you see the graphs. But it has to do with quantity, the Q of products sold. Monopolistic competition firms charge a high price greater than the marginal cost. Again, we'll see it on the graph here in a second. It could increase the production. Number two, monopolistic competitions do not produce at a minimum average total cost, as the perfect competitor would. And then number three, it provides greater product variety. When you have monopolistic competition, with perfect competitors, it's the same thing, it's similar. That's the whole idea, is that they're not offering anything different. With monopolistic competitors, you get differentiation. So here's the pictures of the graphs. On the left side is the perfect competitor. Okay? You see the horizontal demand curve. That's the first clue right there. You see that horizontal demand curve, you know right away it's a perfect competitor. It's the only one with a horizontal demand curve. The marginal revenue curve is the demand curve also. The marginal cost curve is this red line, and the price is equal to the minimum of the marginal cost. That is the long run, I think we called that break even or zero economic profits here. So that's the perfect competitor, and it's productively efficient. But over here you see the cat diagram, where in the long run, the demand curve is just barely touching the downward sloping side of the average total cost. And so they're going to produce the quantity there that corresponds to where MR is equal to MC. It's MR is equal to MC here too. Because there's the MR curve, marginal revenue curve, there's marginal cost, we're going to intersect right there. That's how much we're going to produce. Here we're only going to produce the quantity where they intersected here. You go down, that's your Q max. That's your profit maximizing quantity. And of course here's the price. Now where you get the words excess capacity is that difference between the productively efficient outcome if you were in a perfect competitor over here and what the monopolistic competitor is going to be able to sell. They're not going to be able to sell as much because they're charging a little bit higher price. So that difference is the excess capacity. They could produce more, the monopolistic competitor. They could sell more, but they would have to lower the price to do that. So that's not as efficient, but again, it gives people more variety. And that is the uniqueness with monopolistic competitors. Okay, so that, I believe, is the last slide of that set. Oligopolies are the last market structure, and again, with the spectrum, we had perfect competition at this end. The monopoly here, the oligopoly, a little bit closer to the monopolist, and the monopolistic competitor, abbreviating that, down near the perfect competitor. So oligopoly is actually closer to the monopoly. Oligopoly has got some characteristics itself. It has the characteristics of a few sellers. Okay, not maybe more than 3, maybe 8, maybe 10, but not hundreds. Okay? So don't think when I say few, mean it's 3. Standardized or differentiated products, that means they can be either or. They can be the same, standardized, or they can be different for the type of product or service. It's difficult to enter the industry, which is much different than these two on this end. At this end, it's very easy to enter, and of course it's easy to exit too. Over here, down at this end, it's difficult to enter these industries. The main reason is because of the economies of scale, because it's very large operations, very large types of industries like the airline industry. It's not easy to get into the airline industry unless you have a lot of financial capital to begin and start a fleet of jets and purchase those. I didn't get the chance to watch the clip on 60 Minutes last night. It's about Tesla. Anybody see it? the Tesla automobile. I'm not familiar with it all. I wish I would have seen that segment on it. But I'm thinking similar to that on auto manufacturing. It's not easy to get into that industry. You've got big players already, and it's a big capital startup that you need to have. Ownership of a key input. That sometimes is a restriction or a barrier. Unless you own that key thing, you may not be able to even start it. Or sometimes the patents can impose the barrier to entering that industry. Making it difficult for those. I would have to say, though, the financial financial requirements usually are the hardest. You gotta have some money to start out. But the biggest characterization or the attribute that's different is the interdependency, not independency, interdependency of other firms in the industry. They depend on each other. That's what that means. They're interdependent. Whatever one does, typically the others kind of follow. It's a follow the leader strategy. You play a lot of strategic games, and the phrase game theory comes to play in oligopoly industries with a very few number of sellers. The best policy, though, for an oligopolist is to cooperate with your other companies and act like a monopolist by producing a small amount of quantity, Q, and charging a higher price above its marginal cost. So it's very much like the monopoly pricing. They can kind of control the pricing. But again, you're interdependent among other players in the market. So let's look at these, it's actually titled Barriers to Entry, but really this slide is about the concentration ratio. Remember the Herfindahl Index, we talked about the percentages of market share with sales, and in some of these industries here, they are by the highest concentrations of 4 firms. Now, I could have listed a 3-firm concentration ratio or a 5-firm, but this is just 4. So in the discount department stores, 95% of retail trade is among 4 of the top 4 firms in that industry. If we were to name them, I probably would have to say Walmart, Target, Sears maybe, still in there, the top 4 now. I don't even know what the 4th one would be. I couldn't tell you, but 95% of them are in the top 4. So that means it's a higher, Macy's? Could be. I mean, yeah, a little more specialized, but yeah, it could be. But I don't know if it's a discount store. That's the, I'm trying to think of Dollar General. No, they probably, I don't know. Anyhow, the 95% of them are in 4. How about cereals? Over on the right side. That's in the manufacturing. Breakfast cereal. 82% of them are 4 companies. General Mills, Quaker, yeah, I would think Quaker, Post, and Kellogg. Right? I think those are the 4 top companies in that industry. In the beer industry, 91% are comprised of 4 of major companies: Anheuser-Busch, Miller, maybe Coors. I don't know the exact percentage, but there's a lot of other beer manufacturers, but top 4 comprise 91% of the market. And this was probably years ago. This might be a little bit less now today, but there's so many microbreweries out there now. Cigarettes, same thing. And as you see go down, the smaller the percentage, obviously it's not as concentrated among the top 4. This is hidden here. It says pharmacies and drugstores. the top four only comprise 53% of the market, probably CVS, Walgreens, Rite Aid, and I don't know, maybe the fourth one, I'm not sure what the fourth one would be. But that means 47% are comprised of other stores in the United States. So this is just to kind of give you an idea that generally, if it's a higher number, it's just a few firms, 4 in this case, for the concentration. The interdependence. The importance of interdependence is that it leads to strategic behavior. Each firm's profit depends not entirely on its own price and sales strategies, but also on those of the other firms. So what every other firms are doing too. Strategic behavior is the behavior that occurs when what is best for A, company A, depends upon what company B does, and vice versa. What B does depends on what A does. So they have to play off each other. Such behavior has been analyzed using the math technique of game theory. We're going to look at a little clip here referring to game theory, but game theory is the study of how people behave in strategic situations. This could be people, but it could also be companies and how they behave. Strategic decisions means that each person or firm, in deciding what actions to take, must consider how others or other companies might respond to that action. You got to kind of think, okay, if we lower our price, we're going to lose a little bit of profit. What's the other company's going to do? When the airline lowers their fares, what do the others do?
Lower.
They go right with them. If the airline raises them, they go right with them. They follow each other's lead. Doesn't mean the biggest company's going to start doing it. It just means whoever goes first. And then they're going to get those buyers initially, and then everybody else follows suit, and then, of course, kind of a price war is on a little bit. So they have to recognize that strategic decision is how it's going to play out. So here's the, wait a minute. Before I do the prisoner's dilemma, which is my little clip on this. Okay, come on. There's actually an example of the bachelor pad. I got a link to it here. It's not a clip, it's just an article on the web about, you may not have ever seen the bachelor pad, but we'll talk about it in a second. Because I want to skip over this slide and go to the clip that is actually on the Beautiful Mind with Russell Crowe. I didn't see all this movie. I've seen just, I don't know why I haven't. It has to do with game theory and Nash. I think it's about John Nash, the statistician, and so it's kind of interesting, the clip, in terms of what he might choose. Is it best for the group, or best, Adam Smith said it was best self-interest, that you're all, me included, we're all motivated to improve ourselves, be so we don't care what anybody else does, I'm going to make myself better off. But he kind of turns around and see what the group might say, which would be like an oligopoly. He has to depend on others, so it's an interesting clip.
Deep breaths. Yes, you're looking to start shuffling your papers as a 5 seconds. Not by you, gentlemen, here. Oh, we're not here for beer, my friend. Moving in slow motion. Does she want a large wedding, you think?
Should we say swords, gentlemen? Pistols at dawn.
Have you remembered nothing? Recall the lessons of Adam Smith, father of monarchy.
In competition. Individual ambition serves the common. Exactly. Every man for himself, gentlemen.
Those who strike out are stuck with their friends. I'm not going to strike out.
You can lead a blonde a lot of things. You can't even drink.
I haven't been considered
All right,
that.
nobody move. She's looking over there. She's looking at Ash.
All right, he may have the upper hand now, but wait until he opens his mouth.
Adam Smith needs revision. What are you talking about, Allison? If we will go for the blonde. We block each other. Not a single one of us is going to get her. So then we go for her friends. But they will all give us the cold shoulder because nobody likes to be second choice. What if no one goes for the blonde? We don't get in each other's way. And we don't insult the other girls. It's the only way we win. Adam Smith said, best result comes from everyone in the group doing what's best for himself, right? That's what he said. That's right. Complete. Incomplete. Okay. Because the best result comes from everyone in the group doing what's best for himself. And the group. Ash, this is some way for you to get the blonde on your own. You know that.
Governor's down that much, gentlemen. Governor's down that much. Adam Smith.
What's wrong? Thank you.
All right, so let me go back now to the previous slide. We're going to talk about the classic case of the prisoner's dilemma. And again, this is part of strategic behavior. The best example is, again, talking about a prisoner, two prisoners actually, and you put together a pad eraser, a matrix. And I have to give you the background of the story. In the game, between two criminals suspected of committing a crime, the sentence that each receives depends both on his or her decision whether to confess or remain silent, or on the decision made by the others. Now, that has nothing to do with the bachelor pad example right now. This is a different one. But in this particular case, we're going to call the two characters Bonnie and Clyde. Again, prisoners. The police have enough evidence to convict Bonnie and Clyde of a minor crime of carrying an unregistered gun, so that each would spend a year in jail. So that's one of their options. The police also suspect that the two criminals have committed a bank robbery together, but they lack hard evidence to convict them of this major crime. The police question both Bonnie and Clyde in separate rooms, and they offer each of them the following deal. So again, imagine that they're in separate rooms. They're going to be interrogated separately. This is where I talked about interdependence, and do you cooperate with each other, and do you have a pact to stay firm with each other. So here's the deal that they offer to each of them. We can lock you up for a year based on the minor gun conviction. If you confess to the bank robbery and implicate your partner, we'll give you immunity and you can go free. They're telling each of them the same story. Your partner will get 20 years in jail, but if you both confess to the crime, and we won't need your testimony, and we can avoid the cost of the trial, so you will each get an intermediate sentence of 8 years. So what we do is we put these options on a matrix. And I'll list both sides. One will be Bonnie. And then Clyde over here. And here's the two options, either to confess or remain silent. confess, or remain silent. And so the first option was if they both in the room don't say a word, in other words, they both remain silent, they don't rat each other out, what do they get? They both get a year. If they were both remain silent, well, you get 1 year here for Bonnie. That's her. She's got this remain silent. Here's her confess. He's got horizontal, remain silent, horizontal confess. So I'll put hers on the upper right part of that quadrant. And he'll get the 1 year also. So he'll go here. Well, that's both remaining silent. However, if they both confess at the same time in the interrogation room, one says, yeah, we were together, and yeah, we were good. They'll get 8 years. They'll get that intermediate sentence because now the DA has all the evidence and they really don't need to go to trial. And they'll just get them for 8 years. So that's another option. 8 years here for Bonnie, and they're both confessing. And then 8 years for Clyde. Okay. They're both confessing in this quadrant. But what if she remains silent and he confesses? What was the option then?
20 free and 20.
Yeah, one of them goes free. Clyde will go free because he confessed. She kept to her guns and remained silent, so she'll get 20 years. He'll go free. And then likewise, if the option was that she confessed and he held to his guns and remained silent, his option would be the 20 years. And hers would be to go free. So that's the matrix completed in terms of the options available. The dominant strategy for the player to play in this case is the one that is best for a player or firm, could be a company, in a game, regardless of the strategies chosen by the other players. Sometimes the strategy depends on the payoffs, if it was a profit amount. As a matter of fact, I got another one on the next slide, or I think it's the following slide, where there's a payoff between Target and Walmart over a price of a product. But the dominant strategy in this case, what is the dominant strategy for Bonnie and what's the dominant strategy for Clyde? They each have one. It could be the same. In this case it is. But what's the best strategy for Bonnie? She's only got two choices. So you've got to look down at the green. So would it be remain silent in this column, or would it be this column as her dominant strategy? Because again, it's the best for the player, regardless of what the other people are doing. I don't care what Clyde does.
Confess.
What's it? It's to be confessed. Because 8 years is better than 20, and 3 is better than 1. So her best strategy is to confess. That's her dominant strategy. Likewise for Clyde, he has the same. His best strategy is to confess because he will get 8 years, which is better than 20, or he'll go free, which is better than 1. So his is also likewise going horizontal to confess what has occurred. So the dominant strategy for both players in this case is the same. It may be that there's going to be different strategies. Many times it works out to be the same for both players or companies. But that's what the dominant strategy is all about. What's the best strategy in a game, regardless of the strategies chosen by the others. You don't even care what the other person's going to do or the firm's going to do. You choose what's best for you. All right. In this little article here on the web, you may or may not remember this show. I'm not even sure they show it anymore, or have it anymore. It's The Bachelor Pad, and it was a spinoff of the Bachelor and Bachelorette shows, the reality shows, where they took the losers of these shows, the ones who didn't get picked. I don't know how many they have, but there were like 3 of these. I think Bachelor 1, Pad 1, 2, and 3. I think there were 3 of them so far. Not sure if there'll ever be another one. And there's these silly games that they play, and then the winner of the game gets $250,000. Well, this actually is a prisoner's dilemma example. As a matter of fact, in my web class, I actually have them read this little article, and then they post on a discussion board what they think about it, what they would have done. So the first Bachelor Pad, there was two individuals called Dave. Their names were Dave and Natalie. And The Bachelor Pad and The Prisoner's Dilemma. ABC throws a new twist on the psychological classic. So, again, Dave and Natalie, at the very end, they're the last two remaining contestants. And I didn't watch this show, but I watched a clip or two just to kind of get an idea of it, and even the other ones too. What happens is they end up kind of getting into a relationship with each other. I don't know, romantically or whatever. At least on TV it appears that way. And so at the very end they were left. And they were in a relationship. On TV, that is. I don't know they were off screen. And so the choices in the Matrix dilemma would be that here's their choices. Right there, it's the Matrix. They were given two choices at the very end. And they only had to show these, they had a card. And the card would, they show it, they say, keep all the money, being self-interest, I'm interested in myself, or share it. Keep or share, it's the only two words on the card. On one side it was keep, on the other side it was share. And so there, and it's funny how TV, hypes it up, and they show them both in separate rooms. They're struggling over their decision, thinking about should they keep all the money of $250,000 or should they share it with each other. Of course, again, they got this personal relationship with each other, at least we think they do, and you don't know what they're going to do. So if they both said share, so if Natalie says share and Dave says share and they hold a card and they both said share, then they would both take home half, $125 each. Okay? If they both said keep, Natalie says keep because she's more interested in herself, and he says keep, well, see what the result is here. They get nothing. They take home nothing. So obviously it's a big dilemma. You're getting 50%. You got a 50-50 chance. So I don't know, but if you say share, he says share, and she says keep, Natalie takes it all home. Or if he says keep and she says share, he takes it all home. So you got to, I guess how strong is their love for each other if they were really in love? I don't know. They ended up actually sharing it. They both shared the money. They took home $125 each. Although I think if you Google them now, they're not in a relationship anymore. So they played the game. They played the game so they could earn $125 each. So it has that prisoner's dilemma context where, again, you have to make a decision. Are you a pact? Are you a pact? And they were, because they ended up sharing the money. I think in Bachelor Pad 3, the guy said keep, the girl said share, he got it all. He got this. I don't remember what his name was, but it was Bachelor Pad 3. And they were kind of in a relationship, but on screen they weren't near as in love, I guess. They were kind of good friends. And she thought, it was really funny because and for TV they were really playing it up. She thought that they would definitely share it. And so she said share when she unveiled her card, and then he said keep. He took it all home. She went ballistic on it. And again, that's TV. Reality shows. She chased him down. They said, I thought we were going to, the pact wasn't intact. They didn't cooperate with each other. He was more interested in himself. Self-interest. Yeah.
Yeah, but when you were saying that, if she say keep and he say keep, so which one gets to get, who gets the money?
If they both said keep,
Nobody.
nobody gets it. they take home nothing. Actually, what they said on the TV show is that the remaining contestants because you always have the last show as a live show, and so the remaining contestants were in the audience. So if they would have both said keep, the remaining contestants split the $250,000. So I don't know how many were left, 20 of them or so. They were going to split $250,000. I don't know if they still did that, but in the first one they did do that. I think it says it somewhere in here. But anyhow, it's kind of a classic example of the dilemma faced by prisoners. And so you have to have a pact. You have to, so, all right, the next slide is the one, actually, it's the beautiful line, but let me move past that. Get to the next one. So using game theory to analyze oligopoly, again, this is a similar agreement between Walmart and Target. And the agreement is over a game. I couldn't get that matrix any bigger, but it has to do with profits. And this is a payoff matrix showing the payoffs or profits that each firm would earn from the combination of strategies. And it's about a game, well, I don't know if it's a game, but it's a duopoly game because it's just two firms, duo. And whether or not they would collude. Now the word collusion is actually an agreement among firms to charge the same price or to otherwise not compete. Now that's illegal in the United States to collude to keep pricing fixed. It is okay in other countries, and it's expected sometimes, but in the U.S., collusion is not legal. It's probably hard to prove, but it has been in history proven. Many years ago, there's an airline called Eastern, maybe before many of you were born, but they actually colluded with Braniff, I think was the other airline, in fixing airfares. And there were taped phone recordings. The executive CEOs went to jail or something got fined, but they colluded to keep those airfares at a certain price level. Well, in this particular example, Target and Walmart are selling a product. It could be a video game or a video box. They're going to sell it for $150 or $200, each of them. Or sell it, Target's going to each sell it for $150 or $200. That's their choices. If Target sells it for $200, they're going to earn $10,000 profit or $5,000 profit, regardless of what Walmart does. If Target sells it for $150, they're going to earn $15,000 profit or $7,500 profit, again, regardless of what Walmart does. Walmart's got the same kind of strategy. They don't care what Target does. There are two choices. They're going to earn $10,000 profit or $5,000 profit at $200, or at $150, they're going to earn $15,000 profit or $7,500 profit. So it doesn't matter what the other company does. What they're looking for is their dominant strategy. So just like with Bonnie and Clyde, there's a dominant strategy for Walmart and there's one for Target. It happens to be the same for both. And for them, it's going to be the 150. Because Target is going to earn at 150, this go down, they're going to earn $15,000 profit. Well, that's better than $10,000. And for, again, another choice would be still at 150, they earn $7,500 profit regardless of what Walmart does, and that's better than $5,000. So they would definitely sell the product, whatever it is, a box, a video game box, for $150. Walmart has the same payoff, and so they would also sell it for $150. These two companies obviously compete in similar markets, and just like with Home Depot and Lowe's, they compete, and they have personnel that walk each other's stores. My daughter is telling me that sometimes she'll walk a Lowe's store just to see. She will not walk it with her orange apron on, though. Okay, and that she'll be in normal clothes, and she works for the corporate office in Atlanta, and she'll just walk into a Lowe's just to see what they have as far as product line and maybe pricing, but maybe more so product line. But they have people that do that to see their competition, see what they're offering, see what prices they're charging for the similar item. All right, so those are the payoff matrices. Cooperation is difficult to maintain. It really is. Like you could see it with the prisoner's dilemma, and you could see it with Natalie and Dave. Actually, they did cooperate, but in some cases, it's very difficult to maintain because it's always not in the best interest of the firm or individual. You're struggling with the Adam Smith capitalistic idea of improving yourself. Self-interest makes it difficult for oligopolies to maintain the cooperative outcome with low production, low Q, high prices, and monopoly profits. Again, if you can imagine the cat diagram, the Q being lower to the left and higher prices. Collusion and cartels. So again, collusions are secretive cooperative agreements to keep prices fixed. It's illegal in the U.S., although it is acceptable in many other countries. A cartel is just a group of companies or countries, in some cases. OPEC is an example, oil-producing export countries, mainly all in the Middle East. It's a cartel of oil countries, essentially. And their purpose is to control and limit production, control Q, and therefore increasing those prices, allowing for better profits, more profits. Again, it's a situation that's very difficult to probably prove that they are in collusion, I guess, in cooperation with each other. But sometimes cartels can fall apart. It did actually in the 1980s. In the mid-1980s, many years ago, Iraq actually wanted to break away from the our cartel, and they did. Because here's why. Because in the Middle East, there's many countries that have a lot of oil. They were one of them, still are. They felt like, well, why are we being limited? Why do I have to agree with these other 10 countries and these people? I want to, and Saddam Hussein at the time, I want to produce what I want to produce. Self-interest. I want to increase Q because my goal, if I can produce more Q and sell more Q, I'm going to generate more revenue and more profits. I don't care what everybody else does. They can go fly a kite for all I care. Self-interest kind of took over, and when they did that, it put a bigger supply of oil in the market, world market. The price per barrel of oil fell tremendously in the mid-80s. It was like 11 bucks a barrel. Compare that to about 100 now. And so price of gas was much cheaper in the mid-80s. When they've got strong cooperation, those cartels, prices are high. They keep them up because they cooperate. Nobody breaks away from it. No one company or country breaks away and they keep those prices up. Therefore, more profits. It's just when someone kind of breaks away. Firms and oligopolies have a strong incentive to collude, okay, in order to reduce production, Q, raise prices, and increase those profits. So, all right, as far as the graphs look like the cat diagram. They're not going to be any different. Matter of fact, I rarely even draw them again because that's a very similar looking graph. All right, so that completes the oligopoly.